I love how Goalie says that. For those who don't know, welcome to the STiKS Live. Goalie has recently introduced some new transitions, and he always counts down, and then he'll say, wait.
Wait.
You're
Transition,
no wait, hold on.
After the transition, wait.
You're live. No wait, hold on. Now you're live. There we go.
Which
Are we live, Goalie, for sure?
Yeah, that's completely my fault because I still haven't figured out the transition length, which I should know that, but you know. Oh well.
You're a failure.
Yeah, I'm a failure in life. No. Okay.
I miss you, Goalie. I miss you.
I do too. I miss you. We were talking about this earlier. I miss you and your man purse. So.
That wasn't mine. That was actually Crush Sniper, a fellow STiKS fan member's wife. That was not actually mine. That actually doesn't match my eyes, so you know, it doesn't really work out.
No, I thought it matched your outfit though.
Exactly. I mean, what was I wearing? Blue, which I am now, but blue and brown, perfect. I mean,
who was the best dress from the STiKS?
I mean, I wore a Final Boss hoodie. I wore an MV hoodie.
Okay. I think Crush had an OG top.
Crush did have an OG hoodie or an OG jersey.
Yep. And then Hitch wore like a Let's Go T-shirt for 2 days, and then an Optic jersey. So what is with that light?
I don't know. Can I fix it really quick?
Yeah, go ahead and fix it.
All right, so,
Tommy, you want to do the intro?
I'll do it. No, this is my favorite part of the show. Hold on.
Okay. We gotta hold on.
So we're just gonna improvise.
Okay. It's still there.
Oh my, Landon. We've been in a call for like an hour, and now you have a problem.
We always have problems with the show. It's just like suck fight. So. Landon, can you come back and sit down at your chair so we can do the damn show already?
It's like Landon's mum has just called him to do the dishes. He's like, I'll be 1 sec, mum.
What? I don't say that to my mother. I say, yes, mother, I will be right there. Okay, so so right now, actually, my family is currently showing our house because we're trying to sell it. So I'm trying to be a little bit quiet because it's the only room that they're not in. So just keeping that in mind. Another thing that I want to mention is that people are getting kind of tired of our introductions. I've seen in the YouTube comments, because I read those, people also said, you know, I always skip past the intros because they're not really that interesting. I just want to hear about the Call of Duty topics. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to give our introductions, but a little bit of a shorter way. So all we're going to do, say what you do in the community. You don't have to say anything else. Say what you do in the community, and I probably, if we ever have guests on, I'll probably make them do.
Yeah, guests can always have an extended introduction. That's fine. Perfectly. That's cool.
I don't know what to do about this part because it's like how I work. It's like,
okay, sup guys, my name's Goalie. I work for Codpedia and I do STiKS stuff. Yeah, that's my intro.
All right, Tommy.
My name's Tommy. I'm your residential ginger. I come to admire Goalie's work, what is amazing, and I make content on the YouTubes.
Yep. What's up, guys? My name is Landon, aka Air Landon Caster. I worked for Optic Intel this past event. Team Envious supporter, even though I work for Optic Intel. So that's kind of weird. I was thinking about wearing my Envious hoodie in one of the Optic Intel videos. I was like, yeah, should I do this? You're like, probably not. So
yeah,
that was a bad
idea.
You
may be called certain words, but can I just point out, someone in the chat just put Poise just put, why does Goalie look like Mad Cat?
I look like Mad Cat. If I looked like Mad Cat, I wouldn't have these flowing locks.
Goalie is like 6 foot, and Mad Cat is not a 6 foot. I can tell you that from meeting him at LAN. And B, how in any way does he look? Let's just move past that.
Well, I was gonna say the one thing that I didn't know about Goalie was that how tall he is in real life, because he said that he's literally like 1 inch taller than I am. He's like 6'2", 6'3".
He's like a foot taller than me.
Yeah, exactly. He's a lot taller than I am, and I'm like 6 foot 6'1". So
I'm not that tall. I don't know what you guys keep talking about.
You're taller than I expected.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say. All right, so what I'm gonna do now, my favorite part of the show, I say this every week, so I'm not gonna go into it super in depth. My favorite part of the show, recently I've acquired a box full of questions that you guys ask me every week. If you guys want to get involved and maybe even get your question in the box, which we're gonna obviously choose from, make sure to use the hashtag STiKS and then QO.
You could win a PS4.
No.
QOTW.
It's only the
question of the week. So hashtag STiKS QOTW for question of the week.
God.
And I will write your name on the paper, maybe link your Twitter as well. So I have a bunch of random questions for the question of the week, and we're gonna get into it. So I'm gonna Someone tell me stop. I'm just gonna have my hand in here and pick a bunch. Someone tell me stop.
Let's let him do this for a little while, okay?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I feel like I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go mix more some G Fuel. I have this grape, but I'm gonna go get some peach mango. I'll be back.
He got mad at me for leaving for like 20 seconds, and he's going to mix G Fuel. Okay, tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay,
Stop.
Now he's back. That was a lie? Alright, whatever.
That's a lie. I wasn't gonna go
Alright, the question of the week. I'm 6'4", I'm only 14. That's cool, AOD. You are very tall. I would suggest a career in basketball. Okay, this one's coming from Ryan OG. He says, if you could have one sponsor, anyone in the world, any sponsor in the world, who would it be and why? Good question, Ryan. I will show you all. Ryan, it's backwards. I don't care, but it says Ryan right
so, like,
there.
Not just in gaming, just like...
No, you can have any sponsor that you want to out there. Goalie's looking up an answer. I'm gonna throw this one away. I made it. For those who ask, I actually made that, so you're welcome. So that has been the question of the week. Like I said, make sure to use the hashtag STiKS, not STiKS. STiKS.
Skits.
W.
Did you just say skits?
And I will look at those. I said skits, so.
Okay, well, I'm gonna nominate Landon to go first because
I went first last time. I went first last time. I honestly don't know. Like, I have no idea what the question is.
I'm just gonna go because I don't even have an answer, but I'm gonna think of one straight on the spot. So if I was to have a sponsor anywhere around the world, doesn't have to be related to gaming at all, I'm gonna go with a sponsor. I kind of want to be like sponsored by a bank because I feel like that'd give me a lot of money, but I don't think that I don't think that really classes as a sponsor.
They literally they take everyone's money who's in their bank and they give it to you.
Yeah, I would just sit there like, you giving it to me or? But no, okay. A bank's not really a sponsor. So an actual legit sponsor. I don't know, like some food chain or something, unlimited food, but I don't know like from what restaurant, but. I don't know. I could chat. By the way, I would love a sponsor from like a tech company. That'd be sick. Unlimited tech. I can't think of any on the spot, but like someone like PC Specialist or something, and just unlimited whatever I wanted. That would be sick.
Mm-hmm. By the way, chat and also YouTube, let us know in the comments or in the chat what you guys would like. If you had a sponsor for anything, any company out there, who would you want? And why? So Tommy's kind of leaning along the sides of electronics. I have two that I have in mind directly.
Ooh, I should think of one.
I know. I'll think of one. I'm just.
I already have my answer, so can I go next? Okay. So someone already said my original answer in the chat, which is Google.
Rolex.
But I'm gonna be creative and I'm gonna say Gaming Thrones, because.
Oh my God. Oh my.
I need some $6,000 gaming chairs in my life. Just completely get rid of my desk.
Actually, no fair. I kind of see where God is coming from. Like his job does involve sitting in a chair a lot.
So I'm gonna link everyone.
Completely see where you're coming from.
I'm gonna link everyone a picture of the Gaming Thrones website. Feel free to look at their chairs.
And their chair's really $6,000.
Okay, so obviously they were at World Finals. I was looking at this chair and I was like, this is kind of cool. This is interesting. You know, it's pretty cool. They actually had like not like a commercial, but like an interview at the MLG World Finals and stuff. Looked pretty interesting. And it's like basically a massive chair. You have like a bunch of different settings, or not settings, but like, for instance, it's a massive
I'm sorry,
throne
but that doesn't look comfortable.
With a lot of stuff. It's all wooden. They like tried to make it up and we're like, oh my gosh, you know, this is so cool. It is a $6,000 thing. And they were talking about having a LAN with all these chairs. So imagine like 4v4 even, and other esports 5v5. How much money that would cost?
Rip.
For 12 or even like 10 $6,000 chairs?
Yeah, but let's be real. They're probably selling for $6,000, making it for like $100.
No,
I don't think.
No, it's actually everything's handcrafted apparently.
Okay, well, either way you look at it, it's not worth $6,000.
Oh yeah, definitely not worth $600.
No chair.
Either way, I sat in it. It was comfortable. It was pretty nice, but it was. I could relate it to a DX Racer, even though like you have that footrest and stuff. It's not a $6,000 chair.
It's not that appealing, and it's freaking massive.
Yeah,
like so it's got its own steps. It's got its own steps.
As I said, it would replace my entire desk. That's how huge those things are. Like I was standing next to it at the World Finals, and it would literally, sitting here at my desk now, it would take up this entire area. And
right. Like that's your desk now.
Yeah, that's my desk.
That is your desk. The chair is your desk.
DXR Racers from seeing past videos and people take a while to assemble. Imagine how long.
Maybe 30 minutes.
Well, a considerable time. Imagine how long that's going to take to construct.
Yeah.
No way.
How do you put that together?
Well, the thing is, they hand build it. So so they ship it to you hand built. Like it's already functioning.
That's not fitting anywhere.
Yeah, that's not fitting through my front door.
That's not fitting through that door. I'm just saying that, like.
Well, I found a picture of someone using the chair.
Oh, you found a picture? If you'd link it in the Skype, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I will. It's pretty far. It's not super far down, but I linked it to you.
Okay,
guys. It's pretty cool. The guy's a ginger.
Hey,
So he's a friend of Tommy. In other words,
It looks exactly like Tommy.
Okay,
He has a
from
Captain
that
America
angle,
shirt.
that chair looks pretty sick.
It looks cool, but it's like, are you willing to spend $6,000 to be lazy? You know.
Yeah.
So Goalie chose Gaming Thrones. Tommy, have you thought of yours? If not, I will go with mine.
What did I say? I would honestly go with some tech company that's going to supply me unlimited, like, everything from phones to PC parts to cameras to everything. Like, yeah. I'd go with, like, Apple, but nah. Like, Apple specs are nothing compared to, like, what you can get on, like, proper PC sites.
So you want a Windows sponsorship?
Yes, but
Okay.
I want so much more. I want, like, a Windows, Corsair, NVIDIA, Gigabit, everything sponsor, all in one.
So you want more than one sponsor?
Yeah, basically, I want one sponsor that is sponsored by many sponsors that is sponsored.
Tommy
by
wants to have like 6 or 7 sponsors who will all make a custom
imagine
PC for him.
imagine it like a house or something where you've got locks on every door, but you have a master key that unlocks all the doors. I want the master key.
Gotcha.
Okay.
But Landon, we still don't know what yours is, and you had 2.
I mean, people have kind of linked or put theirs in the chat, which have been mine, but I thought of this before they even said it. So my 2 immediate thoughts were obviously Apple. One of the, I think they're like the highest, like they're like basically one of the most expensive companies, like most known companies out there right now. Free iPhones, iPads, that'd be pretty cool. You get all the latest stuff. Next thing I chose was obviously Nike. I freaking love Nike. This has Nike on it, but they're not like officially sponsored by them. Like you don't get, for instance, all kinds of different shirts and hoodies and stuff. I love Nike apparel. It's like literally the only thing that I wear besides, like other clothes. But like that's the main thing that I wear. So if I wanted to go like with money, I'm going with Apple. But if I want to just go with day-to-day clothes, like my gear, when I'm be wearing shoes, obviously, oh my god, shoes, I'm going with Nike. So I have to admit, car companies and whatnot, you guys are smart because
Poised in the chat has just conquered it. Get sponsored by Amazon.
Yeah, but I don't know what they would. I mean,
I already have Prime, so I already have free shipping. What else are they going to offer me?
I have 6 months student Prime.
For those who don't know, once you have Prime, you're officially sponsored by Amazon.
So I'm sponsored by. I'm a sponsored athlete.
Okay, but let's be honest. Let's be honest. The 2 greatest sponsors in the entire world are Scuff Gaming and G Fuel. So
that's true. They are our sponsors as well. And honestly, I saw a couple people mentioning they're like, I want Razer, I want this, I want that. I saw a couple Scuffs, saw a couple G Fuels as well. Good options good options. Make sure to use code STiKS at checkout for 5% off for either of them. Actually, 10% off G Fuel, 5% Scuff. Either way, they're great sponsors as well. Google is also a very good one. I'm seeing some really good ones. And by the way, guys, we're going to be having a couple sponsors coming our way in the future. Maybe in a couple episodes, we'll be announcing those. Pretty awesome stuff. Besides the sponsors we already have, we're going to have a pretty good lineup.
It's just a disclaimer. It's not the PS4. It's not Sony. It's not just a disclaimer from anyone.
Don't ever try to give a PS4 away on the show without informing me beforehand.
We're not actually
Tommy.
powered by Xbox.
Did you not get the memo? Like, do you not get it? No. Okay.
No, I didn't.
We're not actually powered by
on.
Xbox. We're not powered by Xbox yet.
Oh.
Soon. It's not really. If I could choose between Xbox and PS4, like sponsorship, I'm 100% going PS4.
Oh yeah, I think.
And by the way,
me and you both, we've always been Sony ponies.
Wait, I never heard of that before.
You know,
I hear people outside my door.
Oh my god.
This is like, what if I went out there and showed my webcam to them? I'm not gonna do that. But I
could just imagine you doing the show on the move, in the truck, you're just
didn't Kingdom do that? He did a 1v1 with
He did a
Tipsy?
Well, he did a 1v1 with Tipsy before it was the 1v1, and he was on a bench.
Yo,
in the park.
No. When we did the Stick to You with Stealth, and he was in Starbucks, and he did not tell us.
He did not tell
and
us.
literally, we struggled to hear him. It was a nightmare. Like, dude, if you're gonna come on a show, don't be in a Starbucks where you can hear a million voices in.
Thank you,
one
Rex.
microphone.
Sorry, Rex was agreeing with my choices. I'm sorry, I had to interrupt.
Okay.
PS4 but I did get this. I got a cool PS4 cord. I've been looking for one. Just gonna point that out there. Scuff PS4 cord. Just mentioning that. STiKS brought to you by Sony. I would hope so, to Sunder God, but probably not. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it over to Tommy to kind of talk about this weekend. We're gonna go over the groups, go over mine and Goalie's thoughts of the entire event and whatnot. So I'm gonna kind of hand it over to Mr. Tommy Esports.
Ooh,
Mr.
that sounds
Tommy
interesting.
Esports.
Ironic how you throw it to the one person in this on this show that wasn't
didn't
at the
attend.
event. Yeah, but anywho, I'm gonna do my best job as I always do. I did watch the event, so I am very well informed of what did happen. If you did miss it, sadly, you missed a pretty good showing. The VOD will be up, I presume, by the end of the week. MLG normally good with it, but Optic Gaming did end up winning MLG World. Spoiler alert! I'm sure everyone knows by now. If you don't, yeah, I don't know what to say. With Denial coming third, Elevate fourth, Team Envy Denial second, Elevate third, I meant to say, with Envy coming fourth.
You had one job.
And then, yeah, I know. And then top 6 was FaZe and Justice. Top 8 was Dream Team and Epsilon. Interesting enough, there were pro points on the line at this event for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
But we're not going to kind of do our usual go through pool by pool what happened, go through the bracket, what happened, because we'll be here forever. So we're just going to summarize each pool with what happened, who came out where, any upsets, etc., etc. So we're going to start off with Group A, and I'm going to throw it over to Goalie to kind of give his thoughts on Pool A, and then we'll move on from there.
Oh yeah, so Pool A, I was actually, so we watched the first match of Pool A, which was OG versus Infuse. And I think everyone was pretty much shocked by that match. That was a lot of fun to watch that match. Marky B's energy was top notch. Yeah, I really enjoyed watching Marky B this weekend. But yeah, out of Group A, I think everything went. I was surprised that Thrust went 0-4 overall in the groups. Yeah, I expected Thrust to do better than that. Especially after the last placing that Royalty got, and like these are all the Thrust lineup. They were like all really good players.
The only reason sorry to cut you off. The only reason I doubted them is because they all kind of came together from like they were just like the leftovers. Like Fears was left over from TCM, Lacefield from XGN, Royalty from Epsilon, and then Machilla from ON. They were like, I get that they're all individually good, but like I don't know, just them all coming together. They can't just expect it to just work.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I don't know if they didn't practice, but I expected a little bit more out of them, and I think they had a couple close matches, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't actually watch any of their matches.
They did have a couple close ones.
They did have a couple close ones, but
By the way, really quickly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt. You interrupt me sometimes, so this is my only excuse. Someone said IKEA. That is the perfect.
It's like, dude,
sponsor. I'm sorry.
I need a new desk at home.
All of my furniture, except my desk and my chair, is IKEA.
If anyone's ever seen my desk, what I've got at home, it's literally like that wide.
Yes. Like, I didn't interrupt you.
I can't fit anything on it. It's like,
Tommy, I feel bad for you. I'll just
simply one that was sitting there with a 3-screen wide desk, and I'm there with like typing away, and Goldie's like, I can hear your keyboard.
I'll just send you a DM. When I type. I'm gonna send you a DM of my desk every single day until you get a new one.
I hate you. We're on the search for a new one. My uni desk, anywho, is good. But anywho, so back on topic. So Thrust for you was an upset. I want to talk about Infuse, because for me, Infuse, they went 3-1 in the pool, beating TKXGen and Thrust. What I thought probably exceeded expectations of the majority of Call of Duty esports enthusiasts, etc. Especially because there's this monkey on the back about EU teams never doing well at at North American events. What is still kind of true, as Goalie shaking, and yeah.
I muted my mic, okay? I'm smarter than that, Tommy. Just not on Skype.
Okay. We heard you.
Yeah, I was gonna say we heard you, but I guess you. Yeah, whatever. Anywho, back on what I was saying. Yeah, I was very, very impressed by Infused. I don't want to say I doubted them, but at the same time, of past records, European teams don't do that well for whatever reason. We still don't really know the reason over in North America. But this Infused roster, let's just put it in perspective. So they beat Thrust, XGN, and TK. They went toe-to-toe with OptiGame, and they went 2-0 up, and they were up 5-3 in Game 5 against OG, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So they were, if they'd
Round
done
11.
that, that would have completely changed, like, maybe the dynamics of this spot. I just have a look because I haven't actually looked at this, but it's a good thought. So let's hypothetically say Infuse come out first, OG come out second. OG played Denial first round.
They might not have won that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
They
no,
really
no,
honest,
they,
like,
they
now
would.
it's-
They, I expect OG to beat everyone except FaZe at this point.
Well,
honestly,
I expected them to beat
But then
Denial, but keep in
Denial
mind though,
was
these are
12
best of
in their
sevens.
pool.
Mhm.
They did
These
not
are best of
pass that.
sevens, and Denial came out insanely good. Like,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
like Denial and Elevate at times looked. Not saying that they're better than OG, but
Who can
there were
slash
times where they looked like it could go either way if they were to play each other. That's all I'm gonna say.
Mhm.
But I'll let you continue, Tommy.
No, yeah, I'm just echoing what you were saying. Like, I honestly thought Denial came out super hot after OG. I mean, obviously the first matchup was against Team Infused, so if they had gone on to them win their other 3 matches, they would be well practiced, etc. But yeah, still, like, Denial were 12-0 after pool play, and I do believe because they 4-0'd Infused, they were then 16-0. What was insane in terms of map records. So in general, Denial have been really hot this tournament. I thought it was Hook and Slasher especially performed really, really well. So I thought that would just be really intriguing. It just shows you how, you change one matchup, one round of S&D that completely alters the whole tournament.
Yeah.
So
and there were a lot of 6-5s. There were a lot of 6-5s at this event. And it happens at every event. It's just how Advanced Warfare S&D has played out.
Yeah.
But like all the off stations, those matches could have completely changed the bracket. They could have completely changed pool play, and that's just how Advanced Warfare was. Like,
yeah. So generally speaking, to move on from pool A quick, or just to summarize before we move on. So OG, we all expected them to come first. What do we think of XGen and TK?
that's how I expected them to play.
XGN, like XGN's an okay team, and like what I said before the entire tournament really started, I was like, if Study can like lead the guys, it's possible, but it's like, no offense, it's XGN. Like, you see Felon, you see Killa, you see Fizzerp, like guys who are motivated at times, but it's like I saw an interview that Deserto did with Killa, and he was like, we feel good, but we know we're not going to win the event. Like, he was being like completely honest. And if you have that mentality,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
if you know that you're not going to win an event, it's like you have to come in there super confident, thinking that you can beat everyone.
Yeah.
Realistically, in your mind, you can think otherwise, but still, like, you have to be confident. And I did not see that with XGN. As far as like Infuse go, I was like, it's either going to be Infuse or TK. I chose TK because I love Apathy. But from the games that me and Goalie would like witness, for instance, like on the Bravo stage and stuff, they just did not look good at all. There was one time I think that TK took a map off of someone, and they were like, "Yes, it's our first one!" Like,
Yeah.
Theory got super hype, and it was like sad hype. Like, he got hype over winning one map, and it was like, I didn't really understand it. Let's just say that. So it's kind of sad about TK's performance.
Yeah. I mean,
Infused was really good.
yeah,
Urban, boom.
Yeah,
Urban's
I think
a dog.
Infused were definitely a very pleasant surprise. And as you said, I think TK XGM, inconsistency is probably the word. We honestly, like, with teams like this, like, we probably wouldn't be surprised if they were in Infuse's situation, but at the same time, like, a team like XGM, we wouldn't be surprised if they were in Thrust situation. All these teams are they're so inconsistent. We kind of, the norm is doing well and bad, or okay-ish, I guess. But anywho, let's move on to kind of briefly summarize Pool B. So if you don't know, it was FaZe, ON, Vitality Storm, and ISO, and they were joined by DT from the open bracket, who really impressed. Like Infused, but obviously Dream Team coming from the open bracket. 1/4 from the UK. Good old Watson. He really impressed. I thought Watson was honestly probably the best player on Dream Team. But
I'm gonna disagree with that.
I would say
Sender was godlike the entire weekend, especially
Really?
and yeah, even
Search.
off stream, he was playing amazing off
maybe
stream.
I was being a bit biased, but
Yeah, well,
No, Watson played
you were
phenomenal,
on stream. I think like Sender and Watson would have been the 2 top players,
yeah.
definitely.
I mean, I think I must have only caught maybe one series. That is a bit of a bias, and kind of, narrow-minded response from me, knowing that like there was only one series. But
it was 10 a.m. in the morning on Saturday, and Sender was screaming his lungs out in open bracket, not the open bracket.
There was one game, I think DT was down 1-5 in search against ISO, and they ended up making the comeback. It was that night. It was on Saturday night when a bunch of games were going on. It was like FaZe and ISO, Owen and Epsilon, and then that game.
They made a 5-1 comeback.
Yeah, a 5-1 comeback on. I want to say it was Riot, but I could be wrong.
What is that?
Either way,
was that round game 5 even?
Yeah, it was game 5.
ISO was up 5-1 in the search. DT wins.
Yeah, because I was gonna go on to talk about ISO. I mean, what I didn't really get to see too much of them play. I mean, what happened coming into this? We were all talking about. ISO should probably come out second off the bat of them doing pretty consistent at UMG DC and Season 3 playoffs. They've been placing around top 6. You would argue they deserve that second spot because ON, a very inconsistent team, they're making the roster change to pick up Nameless. Vitality, again, like Infused, we didn't know how they were going to do coming over to North American soil. And then obviously we didn't know that Dream Team would be the open bracket team. So from you guys at the event, like what kind of did you make of ISO? What was different this weekend compared to at previous weekends at Season 3 and UMG DC?
Personally, I didn't notice anything like specific where I was like, oh my gosh, that's the reason, ISO did bad. It's different when you watch events because you're literally watching the gameplay. When you're at events, you don't get to watch every game. For instance, me and Goalie, at times we didn't even watch the alpha stage games because we were all focused on Bravo or vice versa and stuff. It just kind of depends. Like watching from a viewer perspective, being there live and like watching them, there were times where I would look at ISO and they would like, I don't know what it was. I haven't looked at their KDs or like their stats or anything like that to kind of see a little bit of the story. But I just didn't see like the same ISO who were like getting hype after everything. Like whenever I've been and watched ISO, like UMGs for instance, they get hype after everything. Like that's the reason people are kind of scared to play them because of how hyped they always are and the amount of fan base that's like behind them. Like you'll see ISO for instance playing DT. You don't think of that as a major match. There was an insane crowd around ISO because of how many fans they have.
Yeah, they got
like the support. Yeah, the support behind them is incredible. And I didn't see like the same hype factor. Like there were times, for instance, when they were playing FaZe in the losers bracket, the loser of that game was out. That was when FaZe took them, obviously knocked them out of the tournament. But like I just didn't see like the same fire that I've seen in the past. I don't know, maybe that was just me or sometimes when I've seen them play. But from a viewer's perspective, not being able to see the gameplay all the time, that's what I kind of noticed.
So was it more to do with maybe the fact that just this pool was in like, other than FaZe, like it was very well matched in terms of like, because I mean looking at records, ISO went toe to toe with Vitality and Dream Team, the two teams they lost to, as well as FaZe. They went both to game 5. So again, like I was talking about with the Infused OG situation, a couple of plays could have ultimately changed the outcome of their pool play experience. So was it more down to the fact that just Vitality, Dream Team, and ON were very well matched competition, and it just so happens that not they necessarily underperformed, but just the competition they had to play was just at that level that was on their level or above?
I think it could have been. I mean, it depends every tournament. Like you go to an event and you think you're playing someone, or I mean, it just kind of depends like what place you get put into. They could have realized the competition that they had and kind of had to take a step back. I'm not really sure to be honest, but from what I've seen at previous tournaments, when ISO's played major teams, they come into that thinking that they aren't the underdog, and it seemed like this tournament they looked like they had something to prove. When necessarily if you're like, not saying that ISO's a middle of the pack team, but they're consistently averaging 4th, 5th. I'm a big fan of their team. Like they have a fantastic squad. Like Silly is one of my favorite players to watch. But
for sure.
They just didn't have that same. I guess you could say fire. I'm not really sure. And by the way, I do apologize. It wasn't against. I said it was against another team.
No, it happened multiple. Like 05s and 01s happened multiple times. So we were right.
Okay, I thought that I got it wrong. Okay, well there was one that people were thinking about, and it was either against Lethal or Infused. I apologize. So if there was any confusion, just want to point that out. So. But yeah, I like going back to ISO. I just didn't see the same fire that I was used to seeing in them.
Okay.
I don't know.
So maybe, I mean, I like, as we talked about, some of these players on this roster are inexperienced. And that's what I liked about Dido kind of being that leadership in that experience roster. So maybe there was a bit of pressure and maybe there was a bit more expectation now that we have been talking about them placing top 6 rather than in previous, before UMGDC, talking about them being more underdogs and teams that we didn't really expect to place highly. So maybe there was that kind of degree of pressure potentially, and obviously 250k probably it would send some nerves through my veins, let's put it that way. But generally, I'm not too surprised with the outcome. I mean, FaZe was coming first. Owen's a bit of surprise coming second.
There was one thing, like Owen was almost beat FaZe. Like it was like a really, really close series. I didn't get to see it, but from what everyone has said, and we didn't get to see it, but there was like apparently a really close game on Bravo between Owen and FaZe where Owen was up like majorly, and they ended up not choking, but ended up losing, and that could have solidified Owen's spot. You know, not having to go between DT and them. But yeah, so off the bat, we could already tell stuff with FaZe was kind of going wrong. Like, I don't know what it is with FaZe. It's like if they have a slow start to a tournament, that just defines their entire run, or if they have a really hot start to a tournament, that decides it. Like, for instance, whenever I saw Elevate and FaZe play, like me and Goalie watched that along with Crush on Alpha. Whenever that happened, I was like, I was so mad because I knew that FaZe wouldn't make it to the grand finals, because I knew that every time they get put early into the losers bracket, they always lose to a team. Like, for instance, they lost at UMG DC to ISO, and they eventually got their revenge at this tournament. But it was like, I knew that once they get put in the losers bracket early, it's going to be so hard for them to make it back, and it ended up not working out for them. So just didn't see the same.
But yeah, I mean, I think with ISO not performing the way we expected them to, it opened for ON and Dream Team. I think Dream Team kind of caused a bit of an upset in coming 2-2 in their pool, because obviously we didn't know who the open bracket team was, so we were kind of predicting on the basis of the open bracket team just coming, maybe 4th or 5th. So I think that, as well as obviously ISO not performing the way we wanted to, led way for ON to place where they did, and obviously FaZe coming first 4-0, only dropping 3 maps. So moving on, because we'll talk about FaZe a bit later, and how obviously, as you touched on, how they didn't perform to maybe how they've done in the past. But we'll talk about that in a second. Moving on to Group C, though, we have got Denial, Rise, Epsilon, Millennium. They were the 4 teams that were seeded into this pool. They were then joined by Justice. Now, to give you a brief overview of Justice in the past, especially at UMGDC, were very impacting in terms of causing upsets, and I think they ended up going like 3-1 in their pool back at UMGDC, and really shaking up the pool, because we always do predictions and we never really take into account that open bracket team, but time and time again, they seem to be causing upsets and knocking teams down the leaderboards. I mean, I just want to touch on Epsilon to start off with. I'm quite surprised with their placement, if I'm honest. I think when we all spoke about predictions, we all had them a lot higher. We all had them in our top 2. And I mean, a lot of people, even in the chat, were maybe saying potentially, are they going to beat Denial after their roster change?
Right. I don't know if Billy wants to talk about it.
Sorry, I was looking up something.
No, you're fine.
So
I was just say, I think like whenever Epsilon made the change, I mean, their main point behind the entire roster change, at least from what Parasite said, he was like, the reason we got rid of Royalty is because we want more consistency. Immediately, I was like, no offense, but he's just saying that to give a reason, because Royalty was a very consistent player. Granted, he would sometimes have like around a 0.9 to 1.0 KD depending on tournaments.
It was justified in a way, because I mean, obviously with that high sensitivity, there's always going to be a degree of inconsistency, especially if the player is not having a good event. It's going to probably show a lot more. And that, I mean, Aqua has performed amazingly all throughout. You've got Aqua joining both Remy and Naga, who have played together, came second at COD Champs, for God's sake. So you can kind of understand the logic of them picking up Aqua, and logically they would go to Royalty to drop, because Parasite is obviously that big figurehead, and then you got Naga and Remy, who have obviously played with Aqua, so it just makes sense. And obviously this time round it didn't work out. So does this mean, I mean, I know we're at the end of Advanced Warfare, it doesn't really mean much going forward now, because it'll be a new game, but like, does this mean that Season 3 was a bit of a fluke? Or, because I mean, for me, Aqua isn't necessarily a downgrade at all. I just feel like,
well, if you want to take the regular season into effect, all of Season 3 was a fluke.
Right.
But man, Epsilon definitely didn't look like the team at playoffs. They were missing
because they weren't.
They weren't. They were missing something drastically, and I don't know if that was because I don't know if they weren't practicing or if I have no clue what the heck was wrong with them, but they just didn't slay people, and maybe. Like, obviously, Royalty could have an amazing event or a great event in my eyes. But they were just missing slaying for most of the time. Maybe
it was like for instance, and that was a good point, Goy. I think like a major thing is like whenever you look at Epsilon, whenever they would have success, for instance, at Dallas in season 3, there was one major play that you were looking at. And it was like always Nagafen. Like it was like you're always looking at Nagafen whenever the team was doing well. It seemed like Nagafen was literally like I always call him like a kamikaze because he would just throw himself at other players and kill them, but he would take out like 2 or 3 people with him. But whenever you looked at regular consistency, like every time that Nagafen was going off, Remy was constantly slaying, and also Royalty was dropping like 40, 50 kills at times. And no offense, but if Nagafen was doing that, like. It just like whenever Royalty was pushing out, making them spawn back, and then that's when Nagafen would kind of go off. It was just like you needed to have those players. Like you were looking at one player, but in the back, you were also seeing other players consistently make that way for him to do what he was trying to do. So it was like, I don't know, no offense to Epsilon, but I was like, why are you making this change after you've had 2 tournaments where you've completely dominated everyone else, dominating teams like Epsilon or not Epsilon. Beating teams like Denial, Elevate. They were up 3-0 versus OG. They were up 3-1 versus FaZe, and they beat FaZe.
Yeah, and they won the tournament. So,
right.
Now,
it was like, it just...
So, Death Slayer in the chat said that Parasite was the one turning up and that Naga was kind of, like, nowhere to be seen. Naga kind of... He's been a top-tier player, but he hasn't been as good since the Gentleman's Agreements came into effect. He was a top-tier LMG player. 100%. Like that's why that's why Revenge did so good at champs. He would just annihilate people in hardpoint because no one else countered his LMG. And he's still a good player without the LMG, like Bal or with the Bal or with the ASM1, but he was missing something. He has been missing something since the Gentleman's Agreements came in.
Either way, it's very clear that they underperformed what we'll come on to talk about in terms of the bracket and where they ended up finishing, because as we talked about last week, and a lot of you guys in the chat and the YouTube comments we're very much anticipating Epsilon to do well after their success, if you will, at season 3. But moving on to other teams, obviously Millennium ended up coming last, as you can see on your screens, 0-4. Not really too surprised. I think they were a pretty tricky pull in all fairness, because I mean Rise came 2-2. Rise were, I don't know, they're that team that kind of were just in the middle ground. They didn't really I didn't really go, oh, they're having a crap tournament, but at the same time I didn't really go, wow, they're really gonna maybe take out some big name teams. They just kind of had a meh tournament, beating I think Epsilon and Millennium overall. But yeah, I think the team to talk about is Justice. Obviously, we know Denial came top. Only good things really to say about Denial. They were absolutely super hot going through the pool. Didn't even drop a map. 12-0 going into the bracket. But Justice, again, like at UMGDC, we had Big Snacks on last night. Last week. To talk about predictions, and he stayed true to his word, if you will. He was on about, look, don't underestimate Justice coming into it. They're hot. He knows that they're ready, and he has confidence in them, and it showed, because again they knocked down in the pool play standings 3 teams that, well, at least 2 teams that arguably you would say should be better based on the Pro League and the teams that are in it. So again, really big props to Justice for doing that. Anyone want to kind of add any comments to that?
No, it's disappointing. I think a lot of those players are underage. I think Spacely might be the only player that's 18
Assault.
Oh wait, that's right. Assault's on Justice. Never mind.
Yeah. They're too young. They're really close to all of them.
They're all really close. Okay. But it's going to be disappointing because this team won't stick together, and it's kind of the same thing that happened with the last Justice. The last Justice roster didn't stick together, if I'm not mistaken. Like the last really good one, or is this the same roster? I don't even remember anymore.
The the roster they've been dominating with is the same team.
Oh,
Because they
it's
had
the same
Study
team.
instead of
Oh, that's
Envoy, I
right.
believe. And then like a week before, they had to make the substitution
Okay.
for Envoy instead.
Yeah.
Because Study went to XGN. But
Okay,
either
you're
way.
right.
But
Well,
really quick, I think like
It sucks, yeah.
like whenever coming into like the open bracket, like I was like Justice, they're a major team. Like even Big Snacks knew he was like, we're most likely gonna make it
Yeah,
through the
and he
open
wasn't
bracket.
he wasn't blowing his own trumpet. He was.
Oh no,
I think
he just
was
knew.
genuinely like, yeah, and I definitely see where it comes from. I mean, after all, UMGDC they had such an impact in their pool and the overall placing of Justice. So why would they not do the same here? And as you talked about, they haven't really changed their roster, so it's like it only meant good things. I think the pool they got into, the fact that Epsilon underperformed, they had Millennium that didn't do too well, and Rise that were kind of just meh average, meant for them coming second. What I mean, I look at it, I don't even think it was really an upset.
Like Justice is
No.
like
not
whenever we
upset
would
at all.
watch Justice play, like whenever I would watch Justice play, and it would kind of surprise me. Like whenever they play, I think they played MV, they played OG. They always won the first hard point. Like their hard point game, at least their first hard point game coming out of the best of 5 or sometimes best of 7s, which didn't make sense to me either way. They would always just like slam you. Like whenever I saw them play MV, they won like 250 to like 145. They're just amazing at hardpoint. I don't know why. Like you could see some of the players in their team and say, oh, Kenny and Envoy, but
Yeah.
you can't just have 2 out of your 4 players going off to do well. Like I don't know what it is, but since Spacely has got like a really solid group of players, he's just been like a freaking leader. Like I love Space already,
Yeah.
and now that he's
It's
got
a lot like
3
ISO. In if anything, it's a lot like ISO.
Yeah, it's
After
similar.
ISO qualified for season 3, Dido's led them all the way through it, and yeah, they've had a bit of a flop at the end, but generally speaking, ISO really did kind of make an impact in the pro scene in terms of getting into season 3, and then not only that, but placing top 6 season 3 playoffs, etc. What I think is a massive achievement considering the road and the journey that players like Dido, even like Aches, Goonja have been on, where it's a title that they're maybe it's not by no means their best title, but they've been able to pick up a young group of talented kids, some that are like 18 plus whatever, and bring them through, and now he's, if anything, shone the light on them, and hopefully they'll be given more opportunities going forward if this team does disband.
Yeah,
I think. Go ahead. Sorry,
I'm just gonna say it's a real shame that Rick couldn't find this roster in time for this season 3 relegation tournament.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
because
100% would've been.
I agree.
They're really
They
good.
would have qualified.
They would have qualified 100% if they were playing like this back then. Which, who knows what they would have played like back then together, but.
But yeah, okay. Well, moving on. Obviously, we don't really need to touch on Denial. They went 12-0, as I talked about. They were super hot.
Yeah, they were crazy good.
Nothing really challenged them too much. Nothing really to say about that. So last poll, and then we're going to take a quick commercial break before we focus on the championship bracket and then the overall event as a whole. We obviously had Envy Elevate Orbit. With Citadel Gaming and then Lethal Gaming in that 4th spot, were actually the team that came from the open bracket. Not really surprising again, Citadel Gaming bottom. At least they had a better map record than Millennium, if that's a positive, I don't know. Then Lethal coming in 4th. I'm not surprised by that. Is anyone else?
I think Lethal's a really good, like, whenever you look at the open bracket, the 2 players from each of their teams,
they came
Polar
out
and Proto from
UVC,
Vex,
didn't they?
Well, it was a different. Lethal Gaming had a completely different roster. That was the only issue. Like,
Okay.
Polar and Prado coming from Vex, and then Kate and Ruiz coming from Tactical Turtles. Like both of those teams, and those 2 on either of their teams specifically, were always teams that you watched out for the open bracket. So those 2 players coming from those 2 teams combining together, like, not like propping myself up, but I was like all 4 teams who made it to the open bracket.
You knew they were going to do well.
Everyone kind of knew that. Like it wasn't a major surprise. Like we were all saying, oh, DT and Just and and Thrust and like all these teams that were going to come through the open bracket, we can kind of see, and that's exactly what I think everyone kind of saw with Lethal, just because of how. I mean, they didn't do the best in their pool. Obviously, they did have some really good teams, but they're always a team to watch out for.
You had Envy, Elevate, and Orbit in your pool. Like that's a hard pool to do well in.
And an Envy that I did not see doing that well.
And watching that Envy Elevate match on Friday night, that was the best match of Friday. The Infused OG, second best.
Yeah.
Well, it was one of the best games of the entire
It was
weekend.
one of the best games in general, I think, across the weekend.
Yeah, because it was like no offense, but we sat with the envious organization. We sat with Taz and whatnot. He's been on the show. For those who don't know, he's Call of Duty
you're wearing
manager.
Envy.
I am. Okay.
Tough
I like Envy. They were the first team that I ever watched. So I got an Envy. I like Envy a lot. I'm just gonna say I'm not a fanboy because I'm not like okay. I'm being realistic. Fanboy to me automatically thinks that I hate every organization that they play.
No, you can't. That's
see, whenever the Call of Duty community definition of a fanboy is kind of like what that is. Like, if you think of OG fanboy, they literally hate everyone else that plays OG. I don't think that. I don't think that at all. I like.
Let's move
the
away
envious
from
organization
before like someone says something that we probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
But
no, I'm just pointing that out. I'm saying I was really really impressed with Envy, and whenever they played Elevate, I was like maybe 3-1, maybe 3-0. The Elevate would take that, and Gunjar stepped it up. I was really impressed with Gunjar. I knew their sub game would be good because they have Looney and Jerd, and from coming what Taz would say, the reason why they would lose a bunch of their hard points, a lot of their games, is because no one would be willing to get in the hill. That's the definition of what Jerd is. Like, Jerd gets kills, and he gets 10, 12, 15 caps, and that's normal for him in a hard point. So I think he filled that role perfectly, and along with having Gunjar, who was probably the best event he's ever played at for AW.
Someone said it in the chat. Like, he played really well. But, I mean, I especially like that Looney-Jerd partnership. I don't know what it was about it, but they seem to work very well together. They're two very aggressive players, reminding me a bit of Attach and Zuma, who can be, when they're both on point, very, very aggressive and in-your-face kind of slayers. What seems to be really something that is destroying teams at the moment, especially in like the likes of Hardpoint, where you just don't give the other team any room whatsoever, any map control, any chance whatsoever to kind of formalize an attack. And yeah, it just seemed to work because obviously, as you can see, they came out top of their pool and they beat Elevate in that very thrilling series.
Now, I'm going to also add this to Tasma was saying this throughout the weekend. I think this was one of JCap's best events since Champs. JCap was playing really well.
Okay.
I think they said at one point he was like 35 and 14 in a hard point, which, I mean, JCap's good, but he's not like, you don't think of JCap.
He hasn't dropped those numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
You think of him as just kind of consistent and average in this. He's
a leader,
title. Yeah, that's a good point. But moving away from Elevate, Envy. Obviously, Elevate came second, only losing to Envy as we talked about. Orbit third. Really not much surprising. Obviously, I think most of us predicted Elevate to come out top, especially with now Octane on the roster. But yeah, I mean, I think it was just Envy simply stepping up rather than Elevate necessarily stepping down, especially as you talked about. Gunjar had a phenomenal event. I think, as I said, the Looney and Jerd partnership worked really well. And as you talked about, JCap being a player that has played very, very well, and what we haven't seen really since COD Champs, it meant that Envy were the team to kind of dethrone Elevate from this pool, if you will. So, yeah, I think other than that, there weren't really too many upsets. Orbit coming third is not really surprising, with Lethal being the team to come out of the open bracket. I mean, just touching on the open bracket teams.
My favorite, can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
My favorite part about all these pools, this one specifically, was that obviously Envy did outplace Elevate. I'm not saying that because like I have Envy sweatshirt on, but the reason being that, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, were that Elevate was the best team out of Roster Mania and that Envy was the worst team out of Roster Mania, and that Envy ended up beating Elevate. Envy ended up like the only team who wasn't their first seed in their pool. Everyone else went 4-0, Denial, OG, and FaZe. The one team who didn't was Elevate, and they got replaced by Envy, who 4-0'd their pool. It was just kind of surprising to me. That was like kind of funny to look at, and you say, oh, that team's going to be terrible because of their players, and I thought that too, but it just goes to show, if you play as a team, you have good group of guys, you can surprise a lot of people. I just had to say that, but yeah. Otherwise, but in my opinion, there wasn't really a whole lot of surprises. No offense to Citadel, kind of where I thought they would be at, like 2-12 maps. It's not good, but it's kind of where I predicted them to be at.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I didn't get to see Orbit play at all this weekend, and I really wanted to see how replays would mix with that team. But
I didn't see him too much either.
Yeah, whenever they were playing, they were always, or whenever I got to see them play off stream, they were always on the far side of where I was standing. So, oh well.
Okay, well, I think that pretty much wraps up group play. I mean, what I was going to talk about before, kind of we went on a bit of a tangent to talk about the pools. Like, out of the open bracket teams, what team made the biggest impact? Because I think it has to be Justice. Like in general across the whole tournament, out of the open bracket teams that came out, even the ones that came and started in the losers, it has to be Justice.
Mm-hmm. Well, they were the only team that made it to winners bracket. So
yeah, winners. Yeah. And then even when they did get knocked down, they went on a bit of a streak. Well, yeah, they knocked out ON and Epsilon, I think it was.
Like honestly, I think they could have gone even farther if once the winners bracket got set up, if they wouldn't have played OG, because it was like the one team you have to play is OG and whatnot. They could have played ON, and honestly, I would have seen them absolutely like murk ON, to be honest with you. So like even if they would have beaten, or like they could have had a little bit of an easier road moving forward, because they beat. I think they beat like Vitality Storm. They knocked Epsilon out, which is a major surprise because that's when Epsilon started to like pick it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then after losing to Envy, but that game could have gone either way. Like all those games between Envy and Just were super close. So I would 100% say Justice too. I was really happy for Rick. Finally placed in the money, got 5 through 6. So I was happy for him.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. But yeah, I mean, you touch on Epsilon. They went on a trail through the losers bracket, but. Just before we talk about the championship bracket as a whole, I think we're going to quickly swing it to a commercial break. So we'll be back in 2 seconds.
Only 2.
Not literally, but yeah. Fill up your tea, as I would say, because apparently that's all I drink, apparently. But yeah, and remember to use the code STiKS for 10% off your Gamma or G Fuel and 5% off your scuff. But we'll see you in 2 seconds. Landing count.
What?
2. Okay, you're not gonna count. Anyway, we'll see you. We'll see you on the other side, guys, after this commercial break.
Beep
beep beep beep.
Transition broke. Okay. Okay, that's cool. Thank you, XSplit. Don't know why, but my custom transitions, like, it's a bug in XSplit. They just randomly break sometimes.
Goalie made a dude.
So are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Welcome back to the STiKS Live. Goalie made a bit of a boo-boo, but we're back. Anywho, hopefully you guys did whatever in your break, went for a toilet break, whatever. I don't know.
Toilet. Yep.
I kind of told a bit of a fib. We're not really gonna kind of go through the championship bracket.
We can if you want to, but
before
the show, Goalie was like, let's not talk.
To kind of just if anyone has just come in and missed kind of what I said at the start, just to recap, Opti Gaming did end up winning, taking home 100k. Denial second with 60k. Elevate third with 40k, Envy fourth with 20k, and then 10k went to FaZe and Justice. Lastly, 7th through 8th, Dream Team and Epsilon. So 2 teams there coming out the winners bracket placed in the money, what I think is quite interesting. And then notable teams that kind of, I think, choked would probably be like FaZe, Epsilon, maybe ISO, I guess, potentially Infused after how they started as well. But generally speaking, OG were the team to win, kind of. It put the crown on the head of OG after the season they've had. Dinar really impressed, and then obviously Elevate and MV following. But I'm going to kind of do a bit of a Q&A now, because obviously myself, I wasn't at the event, but these 2 lovely fine gentlemen were at the event. So I'm going to kind of give them a couple of questions about their kind of experience, shall we say, because Goalie hasn't been to an event in a while, because he does all this stuff with Cod Esportspedia. Landon has, but he's normally on the working side, casting and interviewing and whatnot. So the first thing I just want to kind of ask you was, when you first walked into the venue, what were your first impressions? Because obviously, if you don't know, there was lots of other esports going on, like Smite, Super Smash Brothers, and Dota. So when you first walked in, what were your first impressions?
That's cool.
This is fantastic.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Is that literally it?
That's cool.
Oh my god!
It was cool. This was my first MLG event. I went to UMD Dallas last year. Yeah. It was really cool. Nice that COD was the biggest stage. I was disappointed that the finals or the final day wasn't in the theater like originally planned.
What was that all about?
I have no clue. They didn't give an explanation for it.
What was it?
I remember
there weren't that many actual spectators at the event.
Yeah.
It was mainly just a couple. It was mainly a couple people, then media, parents, and then all the players. Like,
I know that on Reddit, Adam, because Adam's quite active on the Reddit, and he
Mhm.
did tweet out saying due to some planning issue or health and safety issue,
Oh,
they're
okay.
not actually going to be able to it. So I don't know if that's legit or I mean, Adam seems like quite
It could have like Adam's pretty open with the community.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. But I don't know whether he did that as like a cover up because we haven't sold enough tickets. There's no point having this venue because we're only going to fill it a quarter. Because it's something I did notice. Like sometimes it did look pretty packed, but a lot of the times, especially obviously when OG aren't playing, there's a lot of seats to fill.
If everyone who was there for COD was like the times that you saw the crowd being filled, everyone who was at the venue was sitting there.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, there are people who were just walking around. A lot of people were like honestly going in and watching other games. I saw like whenever like for instance, there was one game that I saw after OG played. There was like a good 30, 40 people who went over and started watching Smash. So, and I knew some of them were in the COD scene. Like I mean, it wasn't like they were Smash players watching OG. They were Call of Duty fans who were going over and
I think
stuff.
with multiple games that's always going to be the case because like if there's a massive Dota game going on and then it's just like an average Call of Duty game going on, it's always going to be the case. And obviously from our standpoint, it's like no, come back to watch Call of Duty. But in terms of numbers, like obviously you kind of touched on it. Like, what was the turnout like in general for this event? Because at some points there looked like loads of people in the crowd, and then as I talked about at other points, it looked pretty deserted.
Friday it was the entire it was definitely deserted. No one was there Friday. Like as I said, the majority of the and this is how it always is that at every event that a majority of the spectators that we have are the actual people competing at the event, like all the open bracket people. And that's why like at Anaheim last year, why there were so many people there. There were a crap ton of teams at Anaheim, and then we obviously there were a crazy amount of spectators there. Yeah. But I would still say at least
I get what you mean,
30, 40, 50% of those people were at Anaheim were actually playing the game there.
Yeah, because I mean, there was 192 teams, so you times that by 4, you've already got like a number around 800, was pretty sick. And then you plus team support, parents, whatever. So yeah, that's fair enough. I guess obviously it is what it is. I mean, it was still an amazing event regardless. The crowd was getting hyped at various points, what we like to see, kind of an ESWC-esque feel, what was nice because when the crowd gets hyped and you can hear them through the casters' mics and stuff, it's such kind of the adrenaline, and it's just the intensity goes up.
I don't think we'll ever have that like ESWC feel here in North America.
French fans are amazing.
Yeah, it's just mad. Not how we spectate, really. Like, or at least us in the Call of Duty scene. That's not how we like spectate. We don't get and cheer up for every amazing play. We cheer for Optic, and then we cheer for some crazy plays, kind of.
Every time Optic would get a kill, it's like you just golf clap.
We coined the term Optic golf clap.
Like, there was one time
over a year ago
where the crowd exploded, myself included. I don't know what happened to myself, but I literally like blew up from my seat and I started like saying, "What?" That was I don't know. Why
I remember that.
That was whenever Karma got the 1v2 on Riot against Elevate. Literally not the most insane play
that was deserved. That was very much deserved.
Especially because it was Optic playing. Everyone was there for that match.
That was insane.
And it, like the crowd just erupted. And it's one of the loudest times I've ever been in a venue before. And it was insane. Like I jumped up from my seat. I started yelling. And I don't normally do that, but I started. And then I got my camera. I started recording. Everyone's been asking me if I had the live reaction. In a video that I'll talk about a little bit later in the show, I do have somewhat of a reaction of the crowd when it happens. It's pretty cool, but it was insane.
Definitely want to stick around.
Like me and Goalie like jumped up from our seats and I started running around. And,
yeah, that was insane.
That was one time.
Oh my god, Mom, get the camera, Mom. Yeah. But yeah, shout out to Goalie though, because I actually saw you on stream. I tweeted you as well. Your beautiful little face. Were you in the VIP bit?
Yeah, we were always constantly sitting in the first row. Like we always
first or second.
I was gonna say I definitely saw you a couple of times. Okay, but so generally, venue was pretty good.
Venue was amazing. Crowd though, not amazing.
Yeah. But like
Okay.
it was a really good spectator experience, especially I know they showed it on stream a couple times. Is like the LED screen in front of the team that would say first blood, 2-piece, ace. That was cool. That was really cool for a spectator experience. That they cared that much about the people actually attending the event and not the people on stream. Like
for instance, if you were like a new person trying to watch like what was going on, if the casters didn't mention it, like you realized that was important. Like for instance, if he got the bomb down or bomb defused or clutch or whatever, you understood that was like a major point in the game. Like if you were a new person coming over to Call of Duty from Dota, Smite, or Smash or wherever you were there for, you'd understand that that was important, which I really liked. But there were some things like overall, like the massive screen, the different gameplays. Like honestly, that was probably my favorite venue that I've ever seen. Yeah. Besides and excluding like some events of Black Ops 2 and Ghost.
MLG Anaheim, where they, I mean, like, what did you make of it? Because obviously, when I'm watching it, we're seeing it from the Codcaster view. But did you guys ever follow like individual players? Because obviously they had all 4 players on big projectors as well. So did you ever at points just like, I want to focus on this player?
The first day I did. Saturday and Sunday, I found myself just mainly focusing on the first or on the middle screen, just because I would get tired of looking back in between. Yeah. But if there was like
when they die, you got to wait for that respawn, or in S&D when they're not even playing.
It was a nice feature. I didn't use it all the time, but like if I knew the Codcaster wasn't going to get to a certain player in time that I wanted to see, I would go look at the screen. The one thing,
it means you never miss a play.
Yeah.
In a way.
The one thing I would have really liked, and I don't know how hard this would have been for them to set up, but to have the player name under as a little text on the individual screen. That would have been really nice.
Because you don't know who you're watching. It's just 4 random gameplays on the screen.
Because you would kind of figure out.
And they got different game tags.
Yeah, you would kind of figure out after time, like who, depending on where you were sitting, what screen that they were assigned to. But yeah, that would have been a really nice feature. It might have been too much though, so I'm not gonna.
It'd be difficult, but it'd be really cool if they figured it out. Okay. It'd be worth it. I'll just say that.
Visuals overall, by the sounds of it, Landon, amazing.
Visuals were really, really good. There were a couple things that I don't think they took into play. There were some lights, like if you sat in certain seats and we experienced this, there would be a light that would flash in your face every like 4 or 5 seconds, which would get kind of annoying because it goes in like a certain pattern.
Yeah,
but
so you knew like when to close your eyes, like, it's coming.
Yeah, like it'd be like, oh,
okay,
maybe like that. But then there was another thing too, like where it would have the team names like underneath, or like where they would sit, it would have like Opti Gaming and FaZe and stuff. You could never see the players. Like wherever you sat at, you could not see the players at all.
Because it was just so bright.
Because of
they were so elevated.
The screens that were in front of them. Like they had like for instance, a rectangular screen which would say like Opti Gaming on it. Then it would say like Clutch and like different stuff.
Yeah, but like
that screen was so big.
I thought that only came up to like waist height or
whatever.
No. It was
you could not see their heads or anything. You couldn't see them at all.
Okay, so that's. I mean, just kind of from my perspective, actually watching it on stream, I think the biggest problem. I mean, people in the chat, you can maybe elaborate on this, but like I had a massive like problem when they did kind of pan out with the spider camera like across the venue and the stage and everything. Like the LED lighting and everything, and the boards and everything were so bright that it was actually like sometimes hard to see what they were actually trying to show. Like especially like the players along the sides and where it had in front of the players, like said Clutch and the Opti Gaming or whatever team was playing, etc. I thought from the camera struggled to kind of pick it up and it was a bit fuzzy, but yeah, generally speaking, I think MLG did a pretty good job to kind of up their production. You can kind of see where they're going with it. I mean, I like the how they brought the 4 screens back. Obviously, it doesn't really benefit the individual like spectator from home, but obviously for someone in the venue, I mean, maybe hopefully we can get to a point. Obviously, Black Ops 3, they're talking about you can actually view it within the game, and maybe you can actually be in the game and go through it real time without kind of causing any inconvenience to the game. What would be an absolutely amazing idea, because then you can just follow your favorite player or go into Codcaster or do whatever you want, and then you've just got it all.
The thing is though with that is that it's called a live event viewer. So my take on that, like now that I've kind of the definition of live event viewer makes me think I'm watching the event not I'm watching. Like if it said live game viewer, that would be a little bit different. That's the only reason why I think that you'll only be able to watch the event wise. And for instance,
I mean, being
right, that's the only thing. I would love to have that game feature so you could literally be inside of the game and spectating.
Probably hard to do because obviously,
that's
like you'll probably end up with like
that's next
Squeaky
level.
Mouse 101 has just joined and is on like Epsilon, and it's just like it ruins everything. But
for instance on CS:GO, when I've done this a couple times, like I've been kind of interested in it, and I know Goalie can kind of give his thoughts on it too. But you never see like someone joins the game. You literally are just like, for instance, whenever you're in Search and Destroy and say you die, you're spectating them like you would in a regular game, but you in no way are involved. Like none of the players can see who's joined. No one can see anything.
Okay.
You're literally here. You go ahead. And
explain so how GoTV works in Counter-Strike is it's automatically. I think it's a 3-minute delay. Regardless, you get the Codcaster mode, and you can use it however you want to. Which is nice.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that would be really sick in Call of Duty because it could mean, if people are tired of listening to Mavencast or whoever, they could just go and like just watch the gameplay without any commentary if they don't want that, etc., and have it the way they want it in a way. It just means that it caters to more people at the end of the day. But
amazing for montage makers if we had that tool, and that will be amazing once we have theater mode back. I can't wait to see
you
some
could just have
movies.
Yeah, I hope for God. But anyway, back onto kind of topic of the overall event. Did you guys get to watch anything else? Like even the open bracket, did you go over? Like where did you kind of, other than the main stage and the feature station, the Bravo stream for Call of Duty, where kind of did you spend most of your time?
We played Jenga.
We did. Yeah. We played. There was a lot of really cool stuff like in the venue. Like honestly,
I've seen it.
I was thinking about different things.
Crush's
for reason why people weren't there.
When he breaks the Jenga. I think we need to play like some ultimate Jenga between like the STiKS fan or something.
That'd be sick.
We had a really long, fun Jenga game. Me and Crush.
You guys did. I recorded that. That was pretty cool. There was a lot of vendors there. There was like DX Racer. There was a lot of people for Dota. There was like every major company that you think of was basically there. Like vendors and stuff when you first walked in. Then you had the stage to the right. Then you had Smash in the middle. You had the VIP stage, which was sick, which had Jenga, had Rock Band. You can get sodas and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where all the casters were. For those who probably don't know.
Yeah.
All the casters, like their desks, were all next to each other on this platform, which is right in front of, or kind of elevated on a stage right in front of the VIP booth. Off of that, then there was Dota 2 in the far left. And then there was like this cool area. It was called like the Scuff GB.
Yeah, it was like the Game Battles Arena.
The Game Battles Arena. And we actually, our first day when we first got there, me, Goalie, and Crush, along with like a bunch of other people, played Rocket League, which was awesome. Like, we got to play it together like on LAN, which is pretty sick. And then off of that, there was like a major cafeteria, which had very overpriced food, but you could like, it was a nice outlet to go.
Don't even talk to me about that $10 pizza, dude. Oh my God.
There was like a $10 pizza, which was Papa John's. Literally that big. Like that's, I don't have very big hands. Like imagine, like I don't have anything to compare it to, but it's like, it was a really small pizza, which was very overpriced.
It was like, okay, so here's the size of my G Fuel tub.
Yeah.
Like, just multiply this by 1, or I mean like multiply it once. And that's the size of the pizza. It was tiny.
What's the double? Yeah.
Double it,
it was,
yeah.
Wasn't that good, to be honest. And then along with that, you could obviously, if you had like for instance, there was different passes you could have. For instance, him and Crush had VIP passes. I had a
you had a media pass.
Called? A media pass, so I could like kind of go behind the ropes, for instance, because I was taking video and stuff, which was really cool. I honestly liked just as much watching the regular alpha as I did watching the open bracket and stuff, because once everything went off, you could, be up and close and literally watching the games, because those were super intense games. Like those were some of the best series weren't actually broadcast. It's kind of sad.
Well, that's how it always ends up being too.
Yeah, you're always someone that gets a 1v4 and it's never on stream.
Right.
And yeah, it's always the way though. But
there's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Generally, kind of to wrap up this event, obviously just to touch on viewership, it wasn't amazing. I mean, what do you expect? It's kind of the end of Advanced Warfare. We're all ready for a new title. As always, viewership I think peaked close to 100k. I don't think we actually breached it and went over it. I don't really make much of it because of the fact that there's been a lot of complications this year with personalities leaving the scene, a lot of views towards MLG.TV and the way Advanced Warfare in general as a game has gone. And yeah, and also I think a lot of people with how well, I mean, I think towards the end of this year it's got a lot better, but in the middle kind of section of Advanced Warfare where Opti Gaming were just winning and winning and winning, it gets stale. It's like when Cole went on their long run, we really wanted someone to overflow, like haul them, because we like to see competition. We like to see different teams be competing rather than like having that clear team that is above the rest. Well, it's all good and well, but at the end of the day, we like competition, we like good matches, and we don't get that when a team is clearly above the rest. But do you think this was a good event to end Advanced Warfare?
Yeah, I think.
Yes.
I honestly, like it ties it with COD Champs for me. Like I remember I was tweeting or live tweeting COD Champs, and I just remember it being so tense because of I would have like 7 tweets lined up in TweetDeck, and it was a nightmare for me. It was just extremely stressful. But yeah, especially the way that they introed the grand finals. I know it's a little. I watched fantastic. The YouTube or with the stream version on YouTube, and that shot of the MLG trophy that they had at the beginning was beautiful. Oh my. Yeah. The production was amazing. There weren't too many screw ups. Like it was a good.
Okay, there was some scoreboard issues that I never found resolved. I was a little bit mad about that.
Yeah, we don't. So I don't think we were watching on like the main screen. I'm getting kind of off a topic, but on the main screen, I don't think we were watching actually the streamed version because like they wouldn't ever show like the casters or the analyst desk on the main stream. I think they were just like showing like the actual gameplay because we didn't get a scoreboard up a lot of the times, like the scoreboard graphics on top of the screen. But like when they did the countdown and everyone started counting down 10, 9, 8, and then 1, and then all the lights just popped after Benson like ended his
the Wolfpack versus the Green Wall.
And after his speech, like it was amazing. Like it was obviously I can't say I wasn't there at Champs. I don't know what it was like.
Yeah, but I mean it must have been very similar. A very similar feeling of like
out of all the events I've watched this year, like this, I was just like, this is it. Like this is the best, and it was. Yeah. I still wish it was a FaZe versus OG final, but it was.
Oh yeah, I think we all did realistically, yeah. But I think there's still nevertheless we had 2 very adequate teams that deserved their place in the finals. I mean. Just to touch on something that we haven't, like, what did you make of the analyst desk? Because it's something that throughout Advanced Warfare and even back through Ghost, like towards the end of it, we've been seeing it implemented. Do you really think it was something that was really utilized and worthwhile at this event?
Well, honestly, I can't. Me and Landon really can't say anything on that because they never ever showed the analyst desk.
They showed it at the beginning of the stream.
Yeah,
they showed it at the beginning. That was really about it, though. Like, but we saw it maybe like once or twice.
That's what I was saying. Is that like whenever they would go to the analysis desk or do like an interview, the main screen on the main stage was just the MLG Finals logo. Like it was.
Oh, okay. So it was being broadcast to the viewers at home, like myself.
It was. Yeah. You guys saw something different than what we did.
Okay.
I have to say, for regular analysis desks, what I would like to see them do in the future, which I thought really, like, I want to give them a compliment here first. I really liked the standing desk, backdrop of how they did it. I thought that was great. Like, I want us to not necessarily look like other esports, but the way that it looked was great. But the way that I want is I know this is how a bunch of people feel about it, casters included. They either want to be there for casting or they want to be there for the analysis desk. They don't want to do both. Mm-hmm. Like coming off of casting a game, you think about stuff completely different.
Employ someone like a Swanee who will come and just do analysis.
Well, if he's gonna play though, it's a little bit. Well, it's more difficult.
But like it's like what was it? X Games where he didn't play and he was just kind of analysis.
Oh yeah,
but then
absolutely.
They get roped into casting and like I thought Teep would just do analysis and then he ends up casting. Yeah. And it's like you can start juggling balls with one hand, etc.
Yeah, like the feature of the analysis desk. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. I know I do all the time. Feature of the analysis desk, bringing that, like it being introduced in Advanced Warfare, was amazing. The problem is we need personalities in the scene like Richard Lewis that will only ever be on the analysis desk. They will never cast a game, like ever. We need to find those personalities. I think Fox is a great personality to do that, honestly. But we need to have paid casters and we need to have paid analysts that don't cross over.
I agree. It's like I said, it's one thing, for instance, after casting a match and then going over to the analysis desk, because you're thinking completely different things, at least in my opinion. Like, and I know talking to some other casters, they feel the exact same way. It's like whenever you're casting a game, you think completely differently than you are like doing analysis. There we go. So it's like you're looking at certain things when you're analyzing and stuff. You think of that in your mind and you do different stuff. But whenever you're casting, you're just thinking about the score. You're thinking about different stuff. It's completely different switching over from one thing to another. And I think if they had dedicated, and for instance, like you can have casters and whatnot switch over, but you need at least one or two different, solidified people who will be casting and who will only be doing analysis. That'd be my only thing. But I like how they did it, in my opinion. So
Yeah, that's
they're on a good track.
It's nice that they're, testing the waters with these things and trying to kind of, move forward. And yes, you could see it as kind of copying other esports, but let's be honest, like if it's not necessarily copying, it just means it's the right way of doing things. And sometimes that does mean, taking other ideas. You can guarantee that a lot of people will take stuff from MLG and likewise they'll see ideas from other things and it'll inspire them to do stuff. But that's pretty much going to do it for our recap of MLG Worlds. Sadly, our last event, I mean, we may do a little brief recap, maybe potentially of EGL. I'm actually attending it, but it's no, goalie's not in his head. That's not good. Okay, well, I'll do a personal recap on my channel. Shout out, self-promotion. Yeah, there's the nod. So go follow me in my YouTube channel. Somewhere on the YouTube.
Wow, just plug yourself.
Yeah, I will just, boy, if you're not going to advertise the EU and hurt, like, crush my heart.
Joking.
No, we're over. But we're going to quickly go to a commercial break. After the commercial break, Landon's got something special to show you, and we've got one more topic to talk about that is kind of related to the Call of Duty esports scene. So we're going to see you on the flip side.
Ooh,
and
that was nice.
Beep. Beep.
Transition, and we're live. That's the last words that Mr. Gola TV said, and we're back. Welcome back to the STiKS Live. We have some cool stuff to talk about as we get ready to kind of close out the show, making our way there. There's a couple things that I want to say before we kind of move on to some side topics. First of all, favorite thing of the entire event, really quickly. I had to say this because I didn't get to mention it. Periscope. I love Periscope. I streamed constantly, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. Just want to throw that out there. I love Periscope, and we'll be doing it at future events. Moving forward,
segue back. I'm happy.
We're moving backward.
Segue back. I'm happy that you didn't convince me to use Periscope because my family's already on 75% usage for the entire month.
There you go. Well, that would have sucked.
So we would be at 90 right now and have no data to use for the rest of the month. If I
do you have
Feel free to follow me on Periscope,
do you have like a
Mr.
family plan?
Yeah, we have a 10 gigabyte family plan.
What? That's really weird because that doesn't exist in the UK.
You
You
watch
just have
Netflix
individuals.
all
So
the
like
time?
I have like 3 gig of data. That's
Me
it.
too.
Yeah, I went
Hey.
through
Hey.
6 gigs this weekend.
What?
Jeez.
Well, it's
I have.
Did you watch Netflix the entire time?
Okay,
And
so I
stream?
used Google Maps to drive up to Minneapolis because where my new parents' apartment is, I have no clue where the heck that is. Still don't. So I needed that. While I was doing that, I was listening to podcasts the entire time on iTunes. Then once we got there to New Orleans, I was your constant guy that was checking Codpedia and checking Twitter.
That's true. I did ask you, what's the schedule? What's the schedule?
I was constantly on my phone. So, yeah, I used 70% of our data for the entire month.
I used
in
about
3 days.
I used about 50% of my thing. So even Periscope half the time too. But really quickly, kind of moving forward, I have a special video, not for the show, but if you guys want to check my YouTube that I'm doing, it's called This Is It. It's kind of a summary of the entire event. It's not just revolved around me. If it was revolved around me, I wouldn't talk about it on the show. But it has goalie, it has crush. Basically everything that we did is in this video, which I kind of timed. It's it's basically a montage, for instance, of everything. If you've watched my videos of reactions, all of those are in this video. It's kind of a cool hype video. It's the first time I've ever made something like this, and for the people that I've showed, not just the STiKS fan, but other people, they said they really, really enjoyed it. So if you guys want to check that out, it's actually going to come out in about 30 minutes from now. If you're on YouTube, then it's already out, but it will be coming out at 7 Eastern, 6 Central, and 4 Mountain, and whatever. I don't even know. But anyway, besides that, we also have another thing that's going on. It's actually Hitch. For those who don't know, Hitch has actually been at the Optic House and has been making a massive documentary for them heading into Worlds. I believe it's called The Journey with Optic. He's been making a massive documentary. We've been talking about it, and some of the shots that he's shown me look insane. So he's been making a couple episodes, or there's going to be a couple episodes in this entire documentary. It looks amazing. I'm not sure when that's actually going to be coming out. I DM'd him today, and he's been working super hard on it all throughout the weekend, and also once he's gotten back home. So make sure to check that out. I don't know when it's going up, but make sure to follow him at Hitch a Ride, and also Optic Gaming. I'm sure they'll be tweeting it out and stuff. So just a couple things, some media stuff from us from the event. If you guys want to check those out, feel free to do so. But yeah, like I said, those videos coming up for me today. I'm not sure when Hitch is going to be coming out with his. Most likely either later today or tomorrow. So make sure to stay tuned for that as well. So transition forward. Now we're going to be talking about a couple things, not super long. I do have your guys' questions from Twitter, but I'm going to be asking and kind of mentioning a couple side topics that did happen throughout this week and also through this weekend. So the first thing was a major video that was actually released by Mr. Nadeshot. He did make a video kind of talking about, I don't remember the title of it, but he was talking about his biggest regret that he's ever basically kind of made in the Call of Duty scene and stuff, and that his switch from MLG, or his switch from Twitch to MLG, saying that was the biggest regret he's ever had in switching from that platform over to MLG.TV. So that was a massive dig at, obviously, this network that we're on currently, and MLG.TV as a whole, having basically the biggest streamer who was on Twitch for a long time and would get 20,000 viewers, switching over to another brand. And I kind of want to talk about it, get your guys' thoughts about it, because he's kind of blamed himself in a sense for the lack of viewership that Call of Duty's received, obviously being on a different platform. That's going to happen, and by no means a near as popular streaming platform as Twitch. Do you guys think in general he has a lot to do with the viewer loss? Do you think that he's kind of caused that in some way? No hate to him, but for making that decision, do you guys think that kind of was caused by him in any way?
I think on 2 levels, yes, but it's really hard to kind of judge, because at the time of him leaving after COD Champs, every year, viewership starts to slump. There's less intensity, less hype, less motivation by the players, etc., etc. So it's really hard to kind of measure the overall kind of impact of Nadeshot leaving. There's no graphic that says, oh, since Nadeshot left the community, this many people stopped following and yada yada. But I think there's 2 tiers to it. The first tier is the fact that obviously Nadeshot was very much the centerpiece of Optic Gaming, very much had his own following, regardless of Optic and everything as a whole. And obviously Scump has kind of filled that role in a way, but not so much. And that's the tier 1 of where, because he had such a big following, him leaving, it means obviously less people are going to be watching. And as I said, the timing as well wasn't ideal either. Second kind of tier for me is the fact that him obviously moving over to MLG, he moved over first and then everyone followed him, if you know what I mean. I don't want to say he is the sheep follower or wherever it be, but how everyone followed him over. But if maybe he hadn't made that move and he'd decided to stay on Twitch, I think we may have potentially seen a different scenario where maybe people would have stayed on Twitch. But there's no way of knowing how the scenario would have gone, because there would have been someone else. There was obviously a lot of YouTubers that transitioned over, and we've kind of, from what I've seen with the ad revenue that can be made, is a lot better than Twitch in certain aspects. So yeah, there's no way of really measuring it, but I definitely think, to a degree, Nadeshot's departure and the whole MLG thing has played its toll.
Oh yeah, of course. I think we talked about it a couple shows ago about, well, not necessarily this, but and it was a comment from Marky B that we were talking about on Twitter, is that people watch these events because they're fans of players, not actual fans of the teams. And hopefully we get to that point or we get to that point somewhere where you watch the team no matter what. And I think Optic kind of has that, and FaZe kind of has that right now. But none of the other teams do. I think
it was a slight for Envy and TK a little bit, but not as big, obviously.
Of course, him leaving the scene hurt us. I'm not gonna hold it against him. He did what was necessary for him, And at the time when he signed with MLG, it probably looked like a good deal for him. And who knows, MLG still could have gone ahead and did the whole exclusivity thing on only streaming events here on MLG.TV, and it could have just screwed Nadeshot over by doing that. Like, his hand was forced, I think, and that's kind of what forced the switch over to this platform. Honestly,
there is something that I want to mention just really quick, and I'm not trying to interrupt you.
Yeah, go.
There are a couple people mentioning in the chat that I knew we were going to get to, but I want to talk about this first, was the fact that MLG does, and currently does, well, they previously did, because obviously no one plays tournaments or anything anymore because the game's over, basically. But they did, whenever it was, during Ghost, their Pro League and their tournaments, the MLG, 5Ks or whatever it was, they did say if you do stream these matches, they have to be on our platform.
Yep.
But we're talking about before that was even implemented, they were trying to get people on their network in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever, for instance, Nadeshot switched over, later on down the line, they did come to the fact of saying, if you do play in our tournaments, if you do this and do that, then you have to stream it on our platform. But before that even happened, whenever they were trying to get people on their website in general, Nadeshot was kind of the forefront runner to the fact of once people started to join the network, that's when they said, all right, this is when we're going to have, they weren't going to have people on their website and even offer and say, hey, guys, how about you come over to our less viewership network where you guys can get even less viewers, and, how about you guys come over here? Like, there was no way that they would have kind of came over to that. But now that they do have this, and now that they have, popular streamers in your community, and you have someone to look out for, that's kind of like whenever people were realizing and saying, we need to switch over, because Nadeshot's switching over. And once that happened, that's whenever MLG kind of came in and said, we have all these guys who want to stream on our platform. Let's implement these rules, so on and so forth. Yeah. So yes, they do kind of put in those rules to obviously limit certain things so that if you stream something on MLG, you can't stream it on another platform. But before that, that's whenever Nadeshot kind of made the transition, and that's whenever EG and stuff didn't want to stream on their platform. And
but let's also remember, like, I don't think we fully realized the problem until it all kind of had transitioned. Then obviously MLG came out with saying, if you want to stream our 5K, 10K Pro League matches, it has to be on MLG. And that was something that really irritated me, and that caused a lot of problems, because at the end of the day, you've got everyone wrapped in contracts, and now you're going to come out and say that. And it was just like, for people that didn't have an MLG.TV channel, what was a lot of people, because at the end of the day, it was exclusive.
It was a lot of people at the time. Yeah, it was a lot. And I think that's what hurt the community as well. The fact that it basically wiped a lot of the percentage of people that streamed on Twitch off the face of the earth, because they had nowhere to go. They couldn't stream legally because otherwise they'd be forfeited, and they weren't allowed to have an MLG channel. Obviously, as time has gone on, now a lot of people do, but back then it was like, why are you doing this? It's like, it makes no sense, because you're not giving these people who can't now stream the opportunity to stream on MLG.TV.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know it screwed over a lot of amateur players at the time, because there were only like 10 streams that would ever be live on MLG.TV.
Yeah.
And
it was like team streams, wasn't it? It was only like one person per.
And it was still an issue with UMGs too. And it was an issue throughout AW that you couldn't stream in a UMG event on Twitch too, because they fell under MLG's umbrella.
Contract.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is kind of unfortunate, but it's just kind of how it went. But I think it did overall obviously affect it, because had Nadeshot not necessarily switched over, we could have necessarily seen MLG not necessarily scrap their platform, but we would probably see more streamers still on Twitch than that would have switched over. And maybe MLG wouldn't have even come up with that thought of, labeling their content only themselves.
Regardless, I honestly do.
Regardless,
it would have been a good idea to keep all 2Ks and 5Ks, 10Ks. That should always have been allowed to be streamed on Twitch. There's no reason. That's still a stupid decision to this day. But Pro League and events, 100%, you can make that exclusive. I understand that, but yeah.
It's an interesting topic. I'm really glad some people are, like, honestly, whenever I look at the chat, my goal is 100% to get you guys active. And I don't want you guys to argue, but I think having constructive, not necessarily arguments, but talk in the chat is great. Like whenever I see you guys talking about different topics, I really like that because that means you guys are involved and you care. That's my goal. So I don't want anyone to think, oh, like there are some people in the chat that I've seen and people tweet at me before and say, oh, I like to talk about this stuff in the chat, but people always want to come back at me and say that I'm wrong. It's not necessarily that. It's just people want to hear your side of the story, whether you're in the chat or not. Mm-hmm. But, I think it's good to have people talking in the chat constantly. So, there are different talks about, had Nate Shot switched over, it would have or it wouldn't have. I think Goalie made a really good point in saying it most likely would have happened either way. But, Nate Shot kind of making that first transition obviously did in some way make, some viewership decreases.
It would have helped, especially if we had more organizations. I think it was PGL at the time that was streaming all the Evil Geniuses matches. It was Gandhi and Maven that were casting. If we had more organizations come into the scene like that MLG was like, okay, you will cast this match through this match, and I think that would have been globally better.
Oh yeah, 100% agree. 100%.
Because every match ever since the start of the Pro League should have been streamed, regardless, and that's how it always should be. Every match you should be able to watch every single match, and not through a pro player stream. It's fucking bull. You're asking pro players, at least you were asking for a while, one pro player to stream every single match. You're already hampering one player on every team's connection. But yeah. I don't know where I was exactly going. I didn't have an exit to that. I was just kind of bitching.
But it's kind of like it's a wide open topic where you can beat it all you want to, but you're gonna end up going in different directions because you don't really know. Like I said, you don't know what would have happened because obviously it didn't. Like it's always like an open-ended thing.
It's all hypothetical. It's just like we can't really truly measure like how much of an impact MLG has made, or Nadeshot leaving, or viewership slumping because of no COD chapters ending. We can't really judge it. We can only kind of base it off of our opinions and other people's kind of opinions in the community. But
I want to say, by the way, there's no at all adversity we're saying to MLG at all. Like we're very thankful for them to even allow us to be on their network. That wasn't at all us ranting about MLG, but obviously there are effects, and they even know some of the things that have happened due to their steps in wanting to make this website a thing. So we were just, for anyone that thinks that.
They still allowed Call of Duty to survive.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've said that every time that we've talked about this, that the reason that we're here and we're still in esport is because MLG supported us. But I'm obviously going to disagree with some of and I think we can all disagree with some of the things they've done. But
of course,
and no company's perfect. So
of course, absolutely. But kind of moving on, we're going to talk about two more things really quickly. We're going to kind of touch on your guys' questions from Twitter. There was a recent article coming from CNBC, for those who don't know, and they recently put out a little bit of an article, which I'll actually link in the chat and link to you guys on Skype really quick, basically saying that in the next few years, esports will be based and kind of trend as a $2 billion market, which I think is very, very interesting. Obviously, they did kind of talk about it. It was very open-ended. They actually had a picture of Black Ops 3 on the front of it, which I was kind of happy about. But they just kind of talked about the future of esports, people who've invested in it. There's been a lot of actually major guys, at least from America anyway. Mark Cuban, for instance, who's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. He's on Shark Tank, for those who don't know. He's a massive figurehead. And he's been talking about investing in esports. There's a major market that's currently growing, and I think articles like this are very, very good for esports as a whole, whether it's Call of Duty, whether it's Dota, whatever you're a fan of, or if you're a fan of everything, this is by no means a bad thing. I saw a couple people kind of hating on it and saying, oh, it's never going to be a $2 billion market, Call of Duty's dying. And I hated seeing that. I deleted the tweet that I actually linked because there was so much hate about it, which in my mind, I don't know why at all, but I think this is overall a really good thing. I'm not sure why.
That's because our community just focuses on everything negative that they can ever grasp on. Our community is AIDS, pure AIDS. And I still love the community. No such thing, and there's good people in this community, but there are people that don't understand business. I don't understand business. I will 100% say that. I only have a high school degree. But it's just people, especially younger people, lack on way too much of the negatives, and that and there's some trolls too out there that just latch onto everything, and that's a part of every community, but it's very relevant in ours.
At the end of the day, I think it's good because over the last year especially, a lot of news sources, like very credible news sources like this, and especially over here in the UK as well, have been taking note of esports and actually starting to put up more and more articles about like even like different esports, like the international number 5 worlds that's going on at the moment for League of Legends, etc. I mean, just kind of from my perspective, worlds for League of Legends was the quarterfinals were at Wembley Arena in London, and it was streamed by the BBC. It was massive because the BBC are pretty much the biggest broadcasting network in the UK, and yes, it was only streamed on their online. It wasn't actually on TV, but it's still like they're actually taking steps forward that, you know, a few years ago we would have been like yeah, they probably don't even know what esports stands for, you know. So like, and I definitely can see this happening, it growing multiple times. I mean, just look at like prize pool and stuff like that. That just gives you an indication of the amount of like it's growing over the last few years, and it's just going to keep on growing as we get more and more people involved with it, more and more organizations, more and more esports. It's just going to keep going. It's a whole new breed of sport.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting to see how we progress, obviously. But like I said, I think anything like this is positive, especially if you have, you know, CNBC, a major organization, even the BBC in Europe, you know, having stuff like this. Like, and I know people could say bad publicity is never bad. In some ways it is, but this is in no way a negative thing. I think this is only going to help us grow. And having a major company evaluate esports, which a couple of years ago was hardly even known, at almost a $2 billion, you know, assessment is insane. Like, that's absolutely incredible. Obviously, that does relate not just on one esport, but all of us in general.
All of us in general. And
everything together.
Everyone focuses, I find this absolutely hilarious, that everyone focuses on how much better, or like how big Counter-Strike is compared to us now, and how they completely surpassed us. You still have to take into consideration we're still a top 5, top 4 esport. And that's not a bad thing. It's not bad coming in 4th place consistently. Go ask Team Envious. Like, that's not taking shots at all.
Let's hope Tasmo is not watching.
Tasmo, I love Tasmo. But, but people, like, just because we don't have an $18 million tournament doesn't mean that we're not successful.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
It's like what I said a couple of weeks ago. Like, viewership and prize pool doesn't define an esport growing necessarily. There's a lot more around it in terms of overall participation, the amount of organizations and awareness, and just generally reaching corners of the planet that we haven't done before. That to me is growth in other ways, because to make an esport successful, it needs to be global. That's why the likes of CSGO and League is successful, because it is worldwide, and Call of Duty will get there. It will get there over time. Obviously, at the moment, it's mostly big in North America and followed by Europe. But yeah, it will expand, and that to me is still growth. If it means that we have, you know, a couple of years with the same kind of prize pools and the same structure, that's fine with me, because if it means that we get to all 4 corners of the world and then we can grow upwards, I still think that's growing.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, there's been, obviously, I'm not going to touch on this for super long, but there's been a lot of stuff talked about, you know, Twitch being bought out, YouTube being bought out, like the media, not necessarily evolving around esports generally, but things involved with esports are absolutely getting picked up. You know, a major article that I actually made a video about, and that's been kind of talked about recently, but kind of kept under the wraps, was actually MLG possibly being bought out by Yahoo. We haven't seen a full assessment, so I don't want to talk about it fully, but that is something that's very likely. Obviously, none of us know the full effects of if it will happen or not, but that's a major assessment. You know, Yahoo, one of the biggest, you know, at least in the U.S., for instance, that's a major, you know, organization company that's involved in something that's directly in line with esports. So you can kind of see everyone's getting their hand involved. Everyone's kind of interested in it. So I think this is only going to keep growing. So I'm really, really excited about the future, and you know, seeing how these companies kind of get involved and see how some of the stuff that we're doing here is, you know, it's growing, and I just can't wait for the future. I'll just say that. So I think that's really going to do it for all the side topics that we have. By the way, Star Wars trailer was released yesterday. Really interested. Force Awakens looks freaking
I haven't
sick.
seen it, so please don't spoil it for me.
Are you kidding?
I'm gonna link it to you, and you can watch it after the show. Okay?
You're watching after the show. STiKS fan.
I'm
you
gonna,
guys need to
I'm gonna watch it
too.
before my bedtime.
You should. It'll put you to sleep. Not that wasn't good. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go kind of rapid fire through these questions. We're gonna talk about them a little bit, and yeah, these are separate from the questions of the week. Obviously, the question of the week is more general. This is these questions at the end. You guys can tweet at us. I know Tommy, me, and Kingdom, and myself. Sometimes Goalie and the STiKS will tweet out, asking for questions. If you guys
tweet out,
tweet at
or
us.
just if you have a question, just tweet at the STiKS Live on Twitter, and we'll see it.
And
we all have a column.
One of
for
us
the
will see it.
mentions.
Yeah, even include us. Like I see everything that's tweeted at me. All the hate, all the love, all the everything.
All the
Come on, you're
comments.
a Brit.
ginger
You don't get
comments.
any hate. We can't.
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
impossible
I'm
for us to hate
fortunate.
you.
Everyone's gonna go down like I must give him hate. Oh, type.
You're saying that's all.
How
all
could
they
you
sound.
hate this face? So lovable. But anywho,
All right. Well, we'll move on to the first question of the week. Or not, I just completely disbanded what I said. First question from Twitter, which is coming from Barry. His ad is WCB129_Barry. I had to say that because I like the ad. Either way, he says, do you think more streamers of Comp COD will move to Twitch once Black Ops 3 comes out? I'm glad he brought this up because it was kind of in line with what we were talking about. So in your opinion, you don't have to go into it super in depth, but do you think more streamers from competitive Call of Duty will switch to Twitch once Black Ops 3 comes out? Obviously, meaning that they are already on a different platform, most likely MLG. Do you guys think that's going to happen?
yep.
Yep.
Plain
And
and simple. Yep.
I think there will be YouTubers and other streamers that will also switch to other platforms. I saw a Call of Duty streamer on Azubu the other day, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding. Azubu is a platform that normally has foreign League of Legends and Counter-Strike streams. And to
to touch on Azubu are actually trying to reach out to places like Call of Duty, because I know from my personal experience with Excel, they're trying to breach out, let's put it that way, into other esports like Call of Duty, for example. So
But yeah, there will be Call of Duty on Twitch. That directory will be a lot bigger this year than Advanced Warfare was. 100%.
Exactly. Yep. So in our opinions, absolutely. In the previous titles, Black Ops 1, at least in the Black Ops series, every time we have one of these games come out, there's a major source of media that's kind of comes through it. So I think Black Ops 3 will be the same, honestly. Whether it's YouTubers and streamers and whatnot, I think media overall will be massive, and also the scene on Twitch is going to be huge for Call of Duty as well. So very good question, Barry. We're going to move on to our next question, which is actually coming from Lewis, or his ad is Minchi. I'm not really sure how to say that. Either way, he says, what teams do you see sticking together for Black Ops 3? I'm going to limit you guys to one. Obviously, you could say all the teams you want to. One team you guys think will stick together for Black Ops 3. Most likely, we'll all be thinking in the same area of teams, but
we all have to say a different team, too, to make it fair.
Oh, God. All right. Can I go first?
Yes, you can go first, so you can get the easy one.
I'm going to say OG, without a doubt, at least in my mind, are sticking together.
Cop out.
Main question people are asking, is Karma going to be dropped? Probably not. Is Formal going to be leaving for Halo? No. At least there's like a 90% chance that this team will be sticking together. I would say, like, at least that percentage. There's no reason for them not to stick together. They won 9 championships throughout Advanced Warfare. All these players, except for Formal, were Dawns in Black Ops 3 regarded as top 5 players, or excuse me, Black Ops 2. So in a similar title to Black Ops 2, you got to think, why would we even switch? Why is that even an option for us? So a lot of these teams, in my opinion, will probably not make changes until at least the first couple weeks of Black Ops 3 comes out. We've played a beta. The general, the most basic part of Black Ops 3 we've played, and you would be stupid to even consider making changes with a team that can obviously play in Black Ops 3 off of playing, the beta of it. So I'm gonna say Ops Gaming 100% sticking together.
That's fair enough. I'm gonna go with a European team, just to be different.
Nice.
Good, thanks. You're gonna give me the other cop-out answer, so.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna give you these other ones.
I'm
gonna go with a good old Vitality Storm.
Yeah.
Because
why?
The good answer to that is because they're all 18 plus players, first off, so they don't have the problem of the 18 plus scenario with a lot of events coming up in Black Ops 3. Also, this team was primarily built for Black Ops 3. It's been noted, and although obviously they had a bad placement at MLG Worlds, it's out the window now. And this weekend, I'm pretty sure Vitality are competing, but Mad Cat isn't. So even if they do, even if they don't place well, like they can always like fall back on, oh, well, we weren't playing with our fourth, etc. And just generally, this team on paper and like looking back through past Black Ops and like even Ghosts, etc., was really good. Like individual these players, and they played together. Epsilon in general had like dominated. And now you've got Swanee, Tommy, Mad Cat on the same roster, and then Joe, who's really made a name for himself in Advanced Warfare. Cannot wait for this team in Black Ops 3. So I think they'll stick together, but who knows? The European scene's been very shaky recently.
It's similar to the NA scene, I would say.
Now, I would, if out of all the EU teams, I would have said Infused, but is Urban or Zero underage?
Zero isn't Urban. He's around that age, I'm pretty sure.
Because of, especially after how well they played this weekend, I don't know why they would.
I don't know though, because like something tells me about that roster that
it was just for Worlds.
Well, no, not even that. Just like something in the back of my mind. Just I don't know. I just don't see. I just see somehow that roster changing in some way, because the thing is, the reality is there's going to be a massive roster change like in the European scene after EGL because of the fact of the 18 plus age limit. Like XL, for example, we're in a pretty much like bit of a debate because we have some players that aren't 18 plus and it's working out what you're going to do, and it's the same scenario with a lot of players. So there's going to be a lot of roster changes, but I think Vitality is going to be one of them rosters that maybe will stay out of it.
Okay.
But I think Infused, and they've got their full roster at EGL. If they don't perform very well, one thing leads to another roster change.
Now, one thing that I'm going to say, and I was talking to Tasmo about this weekend, because they obviously had Jerd playing for Envy as a substitute. I personally don't see any more EU players coming over to North America next year.
No.
Because we have the COD World League starting up in Europe.
Yeah.
If you're a top player in the EU, I don't understand why you would take the chance to go over to North America to try and be a top player over there. If all the regions are equal, like prize money wise and tournament wise and like regular season wise, there's no reason for you to leave your region.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And there might actually be a reason to go to a weaker region too. Like let's say let's say that.
So are you saying that Envy aren't gonna make a roster change? Is this what you're saying?
Envy has to make a roster change unless unless
TCM don't have a place in North America at the moment.
That I'd love to see Jerd on Envy.
Exactly. I think Jerd should stay out there. TCM should just let him stay out there. TCM, I don't think will get a team out in North America, and that means the only other option is to bring Jerd back. What I think is unfair, because it's basically putting a lead on something that could turn into something magical. So I'd be very disappointed. I could kind of see where TCM are coming from, but at the same time, yeah.
All right. So Bully, really quick, what team do you think would stick together?
FaZe. Cop-out answer.
Cop-out. Next question.
I was going to say, that was kind of the general thing. So I'm going to answer this question really quick because I always find it interesting when people ask these questions. I don't necessarily know everything, but this question comes from OKZ Soulflame. That's kind of a cool name. Either way, he says, do you think Dream Team, Lethal Gaming, and Justice have a chance to be in the Pro Division or go through the Challenger Division? As far as roster goes, Justice for sure cannot play because of the age requirements. Kenny and Envoy both are under the age of 18, and if you want to be in anything involved with the World League, you have to be over the age of 18 in whatever region you're involved with, whether it's the AU or Australia, Europe, or the NA. So with that, no to Justice. We're going to have to find a new roster, at least find 2 new players to the roster. Lethal Gaming, as far as DT, I'm not sure on everyone's age. I think DT is pretty good. I'm not sure how old Ivy is. Lethal Gaming should be good to go. But do they have the option? If they're top teams right now, and obviously if they are over the age of 18, there wouldn't really be any. If their team is good, I wouldn't see any issue with top teams right now, top players in the game right now, who obviously will be good in Black Ops 3. I see no issue with them being in the Challenger division, which is the second division, basically the pro one for those asking.
The thing that we don't know anything about the Challenger division at all. We don't know how the format's
well,
going to be.
We do know that it's going to be basically like the step down to the pros in a way.
It's like, to me, it's like the UMG semi-pro league.
Well, because for all we know, it could be league play, and that's what I could see the Challenger division being, or the Challenger division being league play. But
it's a good point. It could be. We'll see what happens. But if it were to be a style that we're used to, it is obviously possible, except for Justice, who has an underage roster. And I don't know if Lethal or Dream Teams, if any of their players or if one of their players are. So we'll see what happens with that. So the final question of the week going to be coming from Vidal, I'm not really sure. Shout out to Bayern Munich. Either way, says, what or was that the last time we see MLG do a Call of Duty event, and what will happen to the casters? Will ELC
I assume he means ESL.
Yes, he does. So,
No way.
first thing, really quick, before we get to answer these questions in order, was that the last time we will see MLG do a Call of Duty event?
No.
Goalie? No. And what will happen to the casters?
Some will.
What will happen to me?
It all depends who has the rights to the World League, because obviously Activision will be running it, but like you'll have someone from North America, someone from Europe, and someone from Australia in that region stream it and kind of do all the production for it. And whoever has that rights, most likely that's where a lot of these casters and production stuff will go. And yeah, if you do your research, you can find out a bit more information.
Exactly. And what was the last thing he said? Will EGL take over? Probably the World League, not every single thing, but most likely they'll be in charge of that, along with some other stuff. So in regards to what will happen with the casters, I know they kind of covered it. Most likely they'll be involved with different organizations. Obviously we've seen Maven and Mr. X talk about they're going to be involved with the World League, and so on and so forth. So I think that's going to kind of do it for the questions from Twitter. We're going to kind of give our outros and close out the show. Oh, it's 1 minute. Hold on, I have to upload my video really quick.
Wait, you haven't uploaded it?
No, I have uploaded. I have to publish it, but I'm waiting for the time.
I was gonna say, this is gonna ruin.
I was just gonna be like, you're about to ruin the show, homie.
Yeah,
like you're not gonna ruin the show. Don't worry. Oh, it's 6 o'clock. Hold on 1 second. This is on the spot.
Okay,
boom!
Everyone,
sorry for watching this on YouTube, but thank you for watching this far. And if you have, comment down below saying Landon's an MV fanboy.
Yeah. So really quick, guys, if you're gonna give our outros to the show. Affiliations with the community, sponsors, anything you want to shout out, feel free to do so. In under 13 seconds. Tommy, go.
Under 13?
13? Is that all I get today?
2, 3, 4. Just go, Tommy. Just go.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you very much for watching. If you have watched this far, a bit of a longer show than we actually intended, but my name's been Tommy. You can catch all my content on YouTube. I'm going to EGL this weekend. There's going to be lots of content on my personal channel and Excel. So yeah, follow me somewhere. You can just type in Tommy_esports or Tommy Esports into YouTube and you'll find me. Same with Twitter. And yeah, hopefully if you're at EGL, I'll see you. We can talk about esports and other great things. But yeah,
boom.
Good night.
There you go. Boom. Swag. All right. Goalie.
Hey, my name's Goalie, otherwise known as Matt. Head of COD Esportspedia, and I do stuff here at the STiKS. If I don't stream tonight on my personal Twitch channel, you guys can feel free to jab me in the shoulder. So.
Oh, in the shoulder. The shoulder blade.
It's very specific.
Not the shoulder blade, the shoulder. So.
The shoulder.
You can go give me a little jab. So.
The blade in the shoulder, not the shoulder blade. Boom. Nice. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been your dude, your bro, your pal, your man, your ally on the internet. It's been Landon. That's the fastest I've ever said that. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Mr. Rostermania. I stream occasionally. We'll be doing more once Black Ops 3 comes out. And make sure to watch my video, which I just recently published. I'll link it in the chat because I'm a scumbag like that.
Go watch it.
I appreciate it. And that's really going to about do it. Shout out to our sponsors, both Scuff and G Fuel. Make sure to use code STiKS at the checkout. And maybe we'll see you all next week. Same time. New place. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great day. Peace out.
Bye.
Boop, 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 boop.